Welcome back, everybody. We got week 5 coming right up from Massachusetts League, Legacy Leagues. A lot of close games this weekend, a lot of action, a lot of excitement. We're going to talk about it all today. I got the boys with me, Elliot, Will, Trent. We're going to start with our closest game of the week, RI Wave versus Run It Up. Nope, wrong transition. We'll cut that out. I don't know where the transition went, so we're just not going to do one. All right, our first matchup, we got RI Wave versus Run It Up. RI Wave took this one 63-58. Shaq Audrey leading the way, 23 points, followed by Cody Crawford, 17. Run It Up, we had KC Key leading the way, 28 points, 12 rebounds, followed by Fred Vaughn's 12 points, 7 rebounds. So this was a much closer game than I expected, than I think we all expected, because Run It Up didn't even have Sean Yard this week, their top scorer who averages 30 points, and this still was a 5-point game. Honestly, very surprising to me. Run It Up was basically within, or I think they were up 8 going into the fourth, and they got outscored by 13, which led to their loss. It's that dreaded fourth quarter for Run It Up. I know we've talked about it on here. Trent was actually the one who brought it up last week. I'll let you kind of go into that. Trent, another poor fourth quarter for Run It Up. What do you got to say about that?
Yeah, man. It tells me they don't watch the post-game shows, man. Because if they listen to me, they would have won this game. You know what I mean? It was very winnable. It's like a 5-point loss. But I'm gonna still stick on my favorite team. No, not my favorite team. Let me not say that. I still think, and I have confidence in running it up. Like you said, Sean Yard wasn't even playing, and it was only a 5-point game. Throughout the 4 quarters, they outscored him in the third. They outscored him in the second, and they didn't outscore them in the first by 1 point. And they had Casey Key dominating with 28 points and 12 rebounds. He's also a really, really good piece. I'm going to still stand on our Wave is still frauds. I mean, this should easily be a blowout. And they don't blow this team out. They get the victory, and that's fine, But yeah, I'm not a big fan of our Wave, and I think Run It Up did what they had to do. It's tough they lost, but how do I say? It's a good sign that these other players can step up without Sean Yard playing, I will say.
Yeah, definitely. I was going to say Fred Vaughn had 12 points, which is like 6 above his average, 7 rebounds too, way above his average. So definitely another player stepping up for them, when you needed most without Sean Yard there, who averages 30. Still a 5-point game. Definitely RI Wave needs to figure something out if they want to get a playoff win and kind of make a push into the playoffs, get a higher seed. Will, I'll push it to you for RI Wave. Definitely one of the teams that has the most talent, most experience, but they're just struggling this season. What do you got to say about them?
I think their talent honestly got them through this game towards the end. I mean, you could see it was a back and forth matchup. There was a point in time where Run It Up was up by 10, and I was starting to think, all right, this is going to get out of hand. Maybe Run It Up gets up to 20, but then they started hitting threes. Joey had a huge three, cut it down to 2. And then, of course, Shaq Audrey was doing his thing, getting to the line and producing points, which is what RI Wave was really in need of at that point in time. And I think their chemistry kind of progressed as the game went on, but I think the main story is how Run It Up had the lead. RI Wave won it back. And hopefully that's something they can take into the future, because these past few weeks they have not looked like the team we saw in the first 2 weeks. Granted, they did beat a 0-5 team and a 1-4 team, but I think as time progresses, we will really figure out the identity of this RI Wave team.
No, yeah, definitely. Being able to stay level-headed is an outcome of that experience. All those players have been in close games before. I think their starting lineup has all won championships, so they all know what it takes to win. And with those close games, that's what you want on your team. Whether that's on the bench coaching, giving out plays, whether that's on the court actually staying level-headed. That's what they had. That's what got them this win. So we'll move on to the second game, our second closest game, BVO versus Party Crashers. Sadly, my team, the Party Crashers, did not get the win. We took a 7-point loss. BVO gave them our first win. We were so close to our first win. But yeah, Markel Wade led the BVO with 14 points, followed by Xavier Alicia, hope I say that right, 13 points, and then Dante Weeks with 12 points. So kind of a spread out top three scores for them. Alex Silva really just led our team with 12 points, and everyone else kind of scored a little bit here and there. But yeah, this was very, very unfortunate loss for me and my team. It was a battle for our first win between BVO and Party Crashers. Um, yeah, some crucial ref calls at the end. We got called for a carry on a three that would have put us up one with like 10, 15 seconds left. Um, yeah, definitely a heart crushing loss for us Party Crashers, especially because the rest of our schedule is so much harder than the beginning. So we kind of lost our chance to get that easy dub with BVO. But um, Elliot, you haven't talked. Let's kind of try to talk about like getting your first win. If BVO is going to be able to kind of use this to get another win, maybe a first round playoff win if they get seeded against a lesser team. Yeah, what does that first win do for them?
Yeah, that first win is certainly a boost of confidence. They've been fiending for it. I would say that whether it will jumpstart their season remains to be seen. But this is a team that came off a very emotional loss, I would say, after, I mean, they whether you want to say it was because they weren't getting certain calls or they were just getting outplayed in there, and not this past matchup but the one before it, it took a toll on them certainly, and being able to regroup this week and really earn that first win, it doesn't matter how you get it done. It matters that you got it, and that just should take all the weight off their shoulders. They should play more freely, and they've already had a good attitude this season. They don't care if they're losing; they just want to be out there having fun. So I think that win could play into them maybe even having more success down the stretch.
No, yeah. After every loss they've had this season, they at least like three, four of them stay on the bench talking for another like extra 10 minutes, talking about what they can do, what they can improve on for the next week, and yeah, it's just kind of cool to see because they're a free agent team, so none of them really knew each other before this, but you can see the chemistry building each week, which is just something awesome to watch. But I would love to play BVO every week, dude. Having a close game like this is like so much more entertaining than getting blown out every week by FTG or the Reapers. Um, but yeah, having a close game, I just love being in close games because it's just exciting. And like either way, we tried, we got close. You know, we didn't win, but you can't disrespect our heart out there. Yeah, that being said, we'll move on to our third game. We got A1 versus B2A. This was an intense game. It was very, very close until the end. Uh, A1 took this one 79-62. Angel Serrano leading away with 26 points, 9 rebounds. I think this was his first game leading in scoring, which is pretty cool to see someone kind of coming up in this league. And that was followed with Darwin Pereira's 18 points, 9 rebounds, 7 assists, doing everything for them. Followed shortly behind by Dante Rivera's 16 points, 6 rebounds, 7 assists. So those two guards doing everything for him, loading up the stat sheets. B2A, they spread the ball around like they did the week before, but just wasn't enough. Had Jakai Nelson getting 20 points, Giordano, Dinio, sorry, Neville getting 17 points, 9 rebounds. Just wasn't enough for A1. I mean, they're the top team. B2A put a good fight. A1 didn't even have Manny Sanchez though, who is very hard to play against, either on defending him or being defended by him. He's makes a big impact, but I think we saw kind of Angel Sereno take up that role as a fourth big man on that squad. Um, yeah, I'll move back into Trent for this one. What do you got to say about A1 in this victory, or if you want to talk about B2A, you do what you do.
Yeah, man, this was a good game throughout 3 quarters. I think BTA. I've been preaching for them the last couple of weeks. They were on a 2 game win streak, and their toughest matchup was going to be A1, who I think is the best team in the league. They competed with them throughout. Just that fourth quarter, they gassed out. You could tell that A1 was a better team. You could tell they have the chemistry together. They got the big stops that they needed, and I would say A1 got in their head because defensive player candidate Anthony Cabero was too busy dealing with other players coming off the bench, arguing with them, and there's a game going on at the same time. And I think that played a factor because he only had 9 points, which he shot 4 for 7, but usually he's a top tier scorer for BTA. I still think BTA is a solid team. Definitely looking forward to them in the playoff run. And for A1, man, you brought it up. Manny Sanchez was averaging 16 and a half points. They didn't even have him. And this team still plays some really, really good basketball together. When your leading scorer, Dante Rivera, can only puts up 16 and 7, and you still win, that tells you that you're a complete team. You don't really need to rely on one guy to win. And you could tell they play with each other for a long, long time. So I honestly think A1's going to win it all. At this point, I don't think no other team has that much chemistry.
Elliot, you were over on this court. Do you want to talk about B2A? Kind of what's up, what's next for them? Because they take a loss to the arguably the best team in the league, but I still think they're a top team, and I think they can beat any team at any point, given the time. But they were without Maurice Ashley, who's averaging 22 for them. So who knows if he was there? Manny Sanchez not being there, maybe this could have ended differently. We don't know. Obviously, that's just hypotheticals. But yeah, B2A, what's next for them?
Yeah, they just got to keep grinding out victories. You go up against the only undefeated team in the league, and that type of stuff happens. I got to shout out Jakai Nelson, man. Had a heck of a game, 20 points. And his shot looks really good. I'll say Donnie Smith too. I like watching him play. He didn't have like his best game, but I just like watching those two guys shoot the ball. And then obviously Daraj Devance, doing his thing as well. Number 5, just somebody who doesn't always get the stats on the paper, but does little things that you see during the game. And I think if they keep playing with this energy, they'll be fine. They'll be fine. You got to refocus. It talks a little bit about getting that in their head. That can't happen. You got to make good decisions and be level headed, especially come playoff time.
Definitely well said. I do want to touch on the interview. You did this with them. I believe this was your interview. They said they believe they're top in the entire legacy leagues. That means Connecticut, Rhode Island, Massachusetts. They think they are the best. I don't know if any other teams from any other states are watching this, but that's some big words coming from A1. I'm not sure how you guys do this. Maybe you guys meet up out of this. Maybe Joey will set something up in the future where top teams play each other, do a little tournament. We'll see. We don't know. I'm not promising anything. But I mean, we got teams like Flint Tropic beating multiple teams by 100 in Connecticut, or like Lob City, 8-time champions, I believe. Yeah, I mean, it's gonna be hard to say you're the best when you haven't played any of the other teams, but they're undefeated and they're the best in Massachusetts right now. So they definitely have a case on their hands for that. But hopefully in the future we see some crossover events. That would be cool. Let's move on to our last game of the week. Less of a close one here, but kind of got close at the end, and it was not as close as I thought it was going to be. We have Reapers versus FTG. This was a 10-point win for the Reapers, 63-53. Yeah, very odd game. Some players just didn't play like they usually do. Other players stepped up when their other players weren't playing like they used to, but yeah, Kevin Views led the Reapers with 15 points. Then Carlos Bermudez Glean, I hope I'm saying that right, got 13 points, 7 steals, 5 assists. Busy game for him, all over the court for him. FTG, Cole Sullivan led the way, which is kind of cool. He's been on Ethan Austin's team both seasons, and Ethan Austin usually leads the way, so it's kind of cool to see someone else stepping up and making shots there. Ethan Austin followed up 13 points. Very, 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 very quiet for him. That might be his least ever scored in a Legacy League game. Don't quote me on that because I haven't gone back to past seasons checked. But at least in Massachusetts, I know that's his least amount scored. Shot 6 for 18, didn't hit a 3, 0 for 7. Very rough game. Maybe that's what was the problem, was Ethan Austin. We don't know. No other players really stepped up besides Cole Sullivan, though. So we can't just put all the blame on Ethan, because when Ethan's not making shots, we got to be making, not we, I'm not on that team. They got to be making getting rebounds, getting back on D. So there's a lot of things going there. Ethan Austin can't always get his team to win, no matter how much he wants. I know he wants to win every week. Um, yeah. Will, I know you weren't on this court, but you can still kind of talk about the Reapers because you obviously are watching each week. Um, Reapers kind of making a statement win here, 10 points. They were all over them all night, and they're very close in the power rankings, but they're kind of pushing closer to A1 than FTG. What do you guys say about that?
Well, I think the thing that's going to really stand out to me is these two teams played in week one, and A1 handled them towards the end. But I think these two teams are very different now, and I think the Reapers have really put an emphasis on defense. You know how Kevin View says a lot in his interviews that their defense is a lot better than most of the teams in the league, and I think you're starting to see that. I mean, you saw Ethan Austin get held to under 15 points. Very rare occasion, of course. We always expect over 20 from him. And same with Kevin Views. I mean, the past 2 weeks he's been getting shut down a little. He was averaging 30 in the first 3 weeks. So, I mean, it's a little interesting to see how this team is progressing. Obviously, getting more production from Josh Monty Castro and Carlos Boyd as Glenn. So, I think it's going to be interesting to see how both of these teams progress down the stretch, of course. But I think these are the two teams to beat right now.
No, yeah, their defense in this game was crazy. Like I'm talking, I've never seen Ethan Austin getting like smothered like he did. Even half these guys on FTG are all stars in the past, and they just couldn't make shots and couldn't get shots off. I mean, Carlos getting 7 steals is crazy. Um, yeah, Reaper's defense from the first 2 games has definitely made a complete jump. I mean, they had 16 steals, 6 blocks this game. Um, Definitely they're first in steals, I know, and they're up there for blocks. Um, they, I think, are second least amount of turnovers, so just controlling the ball on offense and just basically controlling the ball on defense too, because they're just taking it every play. Um, yeah, I do want to kind of shout out for FTG. Maybe a thing to do. To look for is just like getting their other players going. Because we got Derek Stone shooting 4 for 4, getting 9 points. It doesn't look like anybody can stop him when he jumps towards the rim. But we're just not feeding him the ball when other players aren't doing good. Um, yeah, Daquan Durham, I know it's his second game with them. He averaged 20 in the summer, but he's only putting up like 4 shots this game. It's kind of hard when you got all these players that do all these different things for you defensively, offensively, because there's only one ball. You know, you can't. Not everyone can average 30 points. I'll go back to Trent on this one. Any words on FTG?
Yeah, man, you could tell FTG was just out of sync because of the Reapers defense. They just wasn't playing their game. I will say though, they made it a game in that fourth quarter. Definitely made the Reapers, panic a little bit, call a little bit more timeouts because, the first 3 quarters, well, the first 2 quarters, they didn't even score double digits. They had 7 points and 9 points, and then that third they scored 11. But I think at the end of the day, the real FTG team is that fourth quarter team that we seen. They put up 26 points, and Cole Sullivan was a big part of that reason. He was making some big shots down in the stretch. They couldn't get the job done. But what I will say about FTG is this should be a positive, right? Your best player struggled, 6 for 18. He didn't make no threes. He was 0 for 7, and you still managed to. The game, the final score was 63-53, but the game was really about like 60-53. They made some shots at the end, but it was close. So I don't expect Ethan Austin to struggle like that again. And if he does, and if they do see each other again, I'm pretty sure Ethan Austin's going to remember this, and he's definitely going to have a really, really, really good game. So I'm not really too worried about FTG. They're going to figure it out. They're still a great team. And yeah, that's kind of what I will say. Can I say something briefly about the Reapers too? And I hope Kevin Views watches this. Kevin, you've been struggling dramatically these last 2 weeks. So I don't know if the first 2 weeks were just easier matchups, and you're making less attempts and stuff like that. But for your team to take that next step and win that championship that you claim you will do, I need you to play better. I understand it's a team game, and these other players are stepping up, like Josh Monty and Carlos. They're playing incredible. but your play needs to pick it up. You're the leader of this team. You cannot go out there and shoot 28% from the three-point line. It's not going to get it done. These games are going to get bigger. The intensity is going to grow. The crowd's going to get in it. The refs may call calls that you may not like. So you need to play better basketball because this is not acceptable.
Putting yourself on the hot seat, I love it. I love it calling these players out. But yeah, I mean, Ethan Austin, he'll do better. I mean, this is like shockingly low for him, and he still scored 13, which is more than I have ever scored in a Legacy Leagues game. But yeah, Kevin, he's playing in Rhode Island too, so he's got back-to-back nights. Go easy on him. He's got a lot on his plate. Yeah, I do want to quickly go back a couple weeks. I don't know if Elliot and Will, were you there for the MVP talk when we all talked about our MVPs? Yeah, you guys were there? Good. Because we said Ethan Austin, he is now in the last 2 weeks since we said that 1-1, scoring 13 points last week, kind of struggling that game. We said Kevin Views, Trent just called him out. Has scored under 15 or 16 both weeks. Dante Rivera taking us back seat, still doing what he does, still winning. Not saying he has taken a fall in the rankings there, but he has scored 16 in both weeks when he was averaging closer to 30. Cody Crawford, they took a loss, barely got past run it up without Sean Yard. And then Sean Yard didn't show up last week. We can't really hold that against him. He still scored 26 the week before that, but losing still in both games. So we gave all these guys praise, and they kind of took that, took a step back. We didn't want that. We want them to keep, cooking, keep getting up there. I do think there are some other names that kind of reaching this level for MVP talk, but we don't need to go into that because what we will be doing is going over our early predictions for Defensive Player of the Year. And a lot of good names we can bring out there. Yeah, I will go last because I've got all my options written down. I don't know how many you guys looked into, but I will start straight off with Elliot. Go.
Nice pick of the litter. This might be controversial. I got to go with Dom Langston. He's averaging 3.3 steals a game, and he's the only person in the league averaging more than a block per game. He's averaging 1.3 blocks per game. I guess the rebuttal to that, he's played less games than some of the other candidates I'm sure you guys have thought about. But he has played 4 games, so it's not like he's only played 1 or 2 games and he had 2 good games. He's doing it all on defense. He's the most complete defensive player that I have seen so far this year, and I think he's on pace to be that Defensive Player of the Year.
Definitely, I had his name written down there. He's always out there putting that work on defense, but there are 2 other players that are averaging more than a block. So we can't forget about them, but I won't shout them out just in case these guys got them written down. There are definitely a few more players. Will, you got anybody in mind? You go for it then.
Well, I think we got to talk about Carlos on the Reapers with 7 steals in the last game. If you're going to get 7 steals in a game, that should automatically put you in the Defensive Player of the Year conversation. I mean, I don't know off the top of my head if he has other steals in other games, but 7 steals alone is absolutely ridiculous.
I'll
And
interrupt you. He's averaging 4.8. So yeah, he has other
yeah,
steals. I think he's leading the league. He's leading the league. He's tied
yeah.
actually.
So just seeing 7 steals in a stat box is almost unreal. I mean, that's like NBA level steals. So I think overall he's got to be my pick just with the amount of steals he's got. I mean, blocks are definitely a big part of it too, but I think the number of steals is ridiculous in that sense.
Yeah, I don't think he has any blocks, but I mean, he's the smallest guy on the court, and still, nobody wants to. When people dribble near him, they pick up the dribble and throw it to the other side of the court because they know he's coming. And what he does very well is when people grab rebounds, he always knows they're gonna get the rebound over him, so he kind of goes low and pokes it out and gets a steal every time. I see him do it every game. That's just obviously great ball knowledge by him. But
Can
there's
I add something?
yeah, go for it.
He's just such a pest. I mean, every time I've seen him out there, he's just like swatting it away. I mean, he was a pain for who was it? It was FTG. Yeah, Ethan Austin. He was a pain for Ethan Austin. I mean, the whole wasn't. I'm pretty sure he was on Ethan Austin most of that game. So I mean, that just goes to show. I mean, 7 steals against one of the better teams in the league. That's going to stand out at the end of the day.
Yeah, I mean 7 steals against a team that has more than 4 All-Stars. I mean, come on, they know what they're doing, but he's still getting the ball. But there is a player that has the same amount of steals as him. I wonder if Trent is going to talk about him. We'll see. We'll see. Trent, you want me to go or do you want to go?
I'll go.
Yeah.
So that how I see the defensive player of the year is the impact that you make on your team, and steals can be a. I was shout out Carlos. I mean, that's awesome, 7 steals and all, but it's I look at one of his teammates in Quentin Petty. And a lot of people probably don't know him because he missed the first couple of weeks of the season. But he comes off the bench and makes huge impacts. I mean, the amount of chase down blocks that I have seen him do, the amount of rim protection that I've seen him do, because they're not the biggest team. He's the biggest player coming off their roster, and he makes impacts. You know what I mean? And it's not always about steals and blocks. It's about just the he puts his hands up and he's making somebody alter their shot and make it harder. And that's what I see in Quentin Petty. Like I said, he only been here for a couple weeks. He's already top 5 in blocks, and he missed the first, I believe, 2 to 3 weeks. So that's excellent right there. So I'm definitely rooting for Quentin Petty. Obviously, he needs to play a little bit more for him to get, in that conversation. But to start off for him, I think that's excellent. So you got 2 defensive player of the year candidates on the Reapers with Quentin Petty and Carlos. So this Reapers team defensively is pretty darn good.
Yeah, definitely. They just got another piece, Jayshon Edwards, who is very good. I'm not 100% sure if he made all defensive last summer, but he's also a very good defender. We still have to see more from him too, because Reapers have had a full bench both games, so not too many guys are getting those minutes like we want to see. But Quinn Petty, we talked about him for fifth man last year, and that was definitely kind of what I was eyeing at for him because I think he's underrated, and I think defensively he brings so much to that team. Some guys we didn't talk about, Dante Rivera, averaging 6 boards as a point guard, 3.8 steals a game. He's right under Carlos. I think he's played one more game, so his percentage is a little lower, but they both have 19, which is leading the league. Yeah, he's up there for Offensive Player of the Year, MVP, Defensive Player of the Year. He's definitely a candidate for all of those. I think we should talk about Sebastian Delone from FTG. He won it last season in the summer. He's averaging 7 boards, 2.6 blocks, 1.6 steals, almost 2 steals. So yeah, almost 3 blocks, almost 2 steals. And yeah, what I love about how Sebastian plays is just effort every week, and he goes up for so many dunks. We saw, I think Dante, put him on a poster earlier this season. Last year, his teammate now, Terrence Gallo, put him on. I think it was ranked the #1 dunk of the year. But he still goes up for every block. He doesn't get intimidated by these guys dunking on him because most of the time, as you can see from the stats, he's leading the league in blocks. He's most of the time blocking the shot. Right behind him in blocks, though, by I think only one less, is Daraj Vance on B2A. He's averaging 9 rebounds, most rebounds out of the defensive players we've talked about. 2.4 blocks, 1.2 steals. So a little less steals, a little less blocks, a couple more rebounds, and he's right there with Sebastian Delone. So those are a few guys that I definitely think should be in this talk still. Very, very close race for these players, though. Yeah, a good game, a bad game could kind of decide where these awards go when it's coming up. I think we have 3 weeks left. Yeah, anything else before I move on to next week's games from you guys? Anyone? We can just move right into the next ones. Trent,
I
go.
will say, yeah, I will
Yeah,
say this is just for BTA because BTA always wants to get acknowledged. BTA has an easy matchup against BBO. They need to get Samaj going because if they get going, that'll be another score on their roster where they can do a late playoff push and upset some good teams.
definitely, definitely. I'm a big fan of B2A. Even I don't think we've released the power rankings yet, but I thought maybe they were a little lower than I would have put them. But we'll let them yell at us on Monday. or hopefully you guys, because I didn't vote, guys. If you're watching this, it wasn't me. It was these guys right here. The rest of them. Um, sorry to throw you guys under the bus there, but we'll look to next week, week 6. We got A1 versus running up. Should be a good game. I'm interested to see how Sean Yard kind of compares against uh, Perea and the Rivera. Definitely some of the 3 best guards in the league going up against each other. We got RI Wave versus Reapers. This is kind of RI Wave's last hope right here. I think if they put up a fight, they'll shut us up. If they pull out a win, of course, they'll shut Trent up completely for next week. He won't talk about him next week, I promise, if they can pull off this win. Then we got B2A, BVO. Trent talked about it. Come on, B2A, you got this. FTG, Party Crashers. We just played them, Joey. What are you doing to us? We got to play them again, 40 points off a 40-point loss. And we played them off of a loss the week before that, too. So they're hungry again to come play us. But yeah, looking forward to next week. I'll try to throw down some dunks for you guys. Shout out to our crowd. We had a huge crowd this week, loud crowd. Very fun week for Legacy Leagues Massachusetts. That's about it for this post game. Shout out Elliot, shout out Will, shout out Trent. Thank you everybody for watching, and we'll see you next week.